everyone, welcome to another episode of Rise and Play. And today we are in the special series that I'm building, not with a cat, don't mind the cat in the background, but the special series about Indian gaming and Indian studios and the studios that I've met after I traveled from IGDC. And among some of them was Mayhem Studio that I got really excited about and I met over there. Ojas Vipat, who is the CEO and founder of Mayhem Studio. And I want to introduce today Ojas and the story, the journey in games, and how Mayhem Studio came together and what we are doing today. And before we start, let me introduce you in few words. Who is Ojas, what he has been doing before. So Ojas, you've been the former head of product at PUBG South Asia. And also you've been a gamer yourself, playing shooter games, playing a lot of games as well, even before you started the company. And what we will get into for the conversation today, as you had your experience in product management and also in business before you built Mayhem Studio, then you built the Mayhem as a mobile shooter studio. And we'll get more into that. What are you building and for which audience in 2022? And you are, if I'm correct, a bit more than 100 employees. And so we'll get through the journey of that. So welcome, Ojas. Nice to see you again after a few weeks.
Thanks a lot, Sophie. It's a pleasure to be here as well. And yeah, it's fun to talk about our journey, especially to outside audience, outside of India. Like India, I think people are realizing the potential of the market. People are very glued into what's happening in the country, how the shooters and battle royale games are really catching steam. But outside India, few people know about this phenomena and also us or the studio in general. So it's a pleasure to meet.
Yeah, and thanks again for taking your time because I realized that when I visited India, I did know of a few studios that made reach out of India, and I discovered so many. I heard, I think, more than 100 studio based in Bangalore. So I didn't collect them all, but I collected some of them and the interesting ones to me. And as you said, there's a lot going on in the gaming in India and also on the developer side, but also on the player side. And one thing I realized is it's hard to know of it if you are not there or connected with the right people who can tell you more about it. That's why I'm very grateful that you're here as well to give us a bit more insights and maybe a broader view on what's happening. So let's begin more. One part that really intrigued me at first was to see the whole ecosystem of the new studios founded there. Because 10 years ago, at the time I was working with Indian studio, they were working as extension studios for big companies such as Gameloft, Zynga, EA, Glue, am I missing any? GSN, Scopely now. And to discover so many, I'm curious what has been your journey as you were working in games before on product, on mobile shooter. What have you discovered and what led you to, okay, this is the moment for me in my personal or professional life. I'm going in the crazy journey of entrepreneurship and build my own studio. So if you could share a bit of the background and when was that time when you started to build Mayhem?
Sure. So maybe I'll answer the question in three separate dimensions. Like one is what I was doing, second is what was happening in India, and third is maybe what was happening from a player perspective, like as a player, the second being the market and the third being the player. So back when I started my career, like this is now maybe 14, 15 years ago, the default choice for people was to do go into established companies. That's what our parents' generation taught us. Like going to not startups was a very risky word back then. Like there weren't any also. So it was like going to established companies. So that's how even I started consulting early on. Went into consulting firms, traveled globally quite a lot, tried to advise clients globally. After doing that for a while, like the question for me personally was, well, what do you really like doing? What do you love doing? And the answer was pretty clear, as pretty much most of the people hearing this. I was an avid gamer since childhood, played so many games. And at that time, when I looked around, I was like, okay, if I want to make a job in gaming, and I looked across India, there wasn't much, like you rightly pointed out. Sort of like back office is a little bit derogatory word, but not the main development hub, I would say. More of like games which are nearing sunset, or which are in the live ops phase, not growing, or sometimes even like outsourced work would come to India quite a lot. So there were quite a lot of studios which did fantastic work, to be honest, but they were not recognized as gaming studios at that time. So from a market perspective, India at that time, much like the other things that were happening, was an outsourced dominated country at that time, with the exception that some new studios like Zynga, like where I worked, which is Kiwi, and others were coming up, which were servicing Western markets, but building their development center here. And the trend was India has great tech talent. So that was the next phase of the evolution where my personal journey also interacted with gaming there. And the market also started becoming open to at least more tech product oriented work happening in India. That's how the Zyngas and the other studios in India kind of got established. From a player standpoint, it was still like pretty casual games being top of the charts here. Not a lot of content that was very heavily consumed. People were not playing social games as much.
Mm,
It was mainly like single player casual games. And then I'll skip the in between phases, and then we come to like maybe a few years ago when, for example, when I was at PUBG, I saw it firsthand, a major trend shifting from people having more ways to pay, digital markets opening up, smartphone, mobiles really exploding in the country, and the share of money that all these global shooter games started making in India went up significantly. That's the big shift that happened. The people who don't have their games published in India, or people who are not looking at the country as closely, will be surprised to know this, but a lot of battle royale games make a lot of money in India. Like this is triple digit $1 million per year in India.
mm,
And that shift is what I firsthand noticed myself. And the players, talking about the third dimension, the players noticed by large scale esport tournaments, people paying really attention to India. Like, okay, here's a tournament for your country, for your city. You can participate. You can become a sports champion. So that's kind of how I've seen this evolve till now. So Mayhem, what we are doing is basically trying to build for India because we believe the next phase from here on is India going to be a gaming powerhouse. And just like entertainment, Bollywood movies are famous across the globe, we are hoping that, let's call it Bollywood games, will be
mm.
famous across the globe as well. So that's what we are building here out of Bangalore.
It's super fascinating to understand like the growth journey, which happened quite in a short time, right? We are not talking about 20 years, it's like five years. And an emerging generation aspiration as well. That's the word that comes to mind to me, because there's on one end professionals who have ambitions higher than what they could do. Like you talk about like going to established company, startup not being really a thing, opportunities not there, and then creating the opportunities like we think we can do more. And I see that as well in your studio among others that have emerged the past 5 years. And there's a generation, a demand of players where they were offered locally, because coming like from free to play games, we talked so much about the Western market we build for American audience. Not that I have something against it, but it was just taken for granted. We only build for where the money is, and it's the West. Even like for European, it's a bit weird to think like, no, we don't build for French or Germans, we build for
Yeah,
Americans. And as the population grows and being there as well, a certain budget, maybe overall health and wealth is increasing over years and quite rapidly, then it unlocks as well a certain budget for a new generation of players to invest whether money or time in entertainment. And before we get more into Mayhem Studios as a studio itself, I wanted to understand also more of the trend of esports. And I wonder who is the emerging community of esports in India? Are there young people, super young people, or are there people like, I don't know if I guess we are about the same age, but millennials that suddenly found, I don't know, a place to play games? And what have you seen as a trend that is very specific to India in esports? The fact that it grew so fast quickly, and then it makes sense to have games that can be played with the esports locally.
sure. So one of the things that India is very different from other countries is that we usually skipped one technological phase in general. So like in case of gaming, we skipped the console at completely. So we went from like PC slash pre-console, which were like your Nintendos, to direct. So very few traditional gaming parlors and people playing PC and esports on that exist, and that's the big difference. Because of which also the gaming population, because phones are quite cheap. India has like 700-800 million smartphones in the country now, and everyone essentially has access to a gaming device in that sense. So the young population sees that, and we as a country are also like, cricket is a big thing, right? It brings out like, I'm the best, kind of, I want to play and compete. And there are many other sports also which are quite popular and gaming gaining popularity with IPL and other formats of leagues that are happening for badminton, hockey, other games. In a very similar fashion, slowly and steadily esports has started growing in that dimension as well, where people are not just looking at that as, okay, I'll go weekend and maybe have a pizza and do something with my friends. It's like, no, I'm serious, I'm preparing for it. We have professional teams, quite a lot of people who have changed, switch careers and became team
Mm.
managers. There's money flowing in, where global esport companies are creating their India branches as well. So it's starting to become, in a way, quite evolved, specifically for mobile and mostly for shooting games. Like most of the esports happens in the shooter genre, because that's what people like to watch as well. It's the most action packed. So that's where I think the evolution is happening. And another interesting fact, like some of these prize pools are starting to go and become pretty significant, like 300K, 400K prize pools are
Mm.
coming up in India now, and that's for something that happens every quarter or every few months, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So it's becoming significant. Like the purchasing power parity wise, if 300K, 400K is a huge amount in India,
Yes.
where you can actually get to do a lot in that. So there are some quite happy trends to see, and we as a company also would be very focused on esports once we go live, because we believe that in the long run, that's a great way for players to make their own content, feel involved, have like kind of sportsman like following or playing or watching, like one of the kind of domains.
Wow, super nice. And I've seen the excitement of it when I was at IGDC because there was some competition, I think, with super gaming as well. At least I've seen that more on the social media, which made me realize, and there was quite a lot at IGDC. You were there and part of a panel, quite a lot of conversation, and then revealed companies focusing on mobile shooters. So our name was here. So they're Super Gaming, based in Pune, Lila Games with Joseph Kim as the CEO. And which one am I missing in yours? I think that's the one that comes on top of my mind. And the fact that when I saw this, like, what is happening? And now you explain as well the train. But something I've also saw, which is quite refreshing, is to see quite a lot of young girls, teenager girls getting really into the competition. And it's such an inclusive community in a way where it creates opportunity and accessibility. Like if you like to play games, you want to be competitive, you want to be part of a team. So very energetic as well community I've seen, and that's where it changed my perspective of mobile shooter as, oh, just a shooter, but more the community you build and the experience you build, which happens in and outside of the game.
Yeah, you're
Um,
absolutely right. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I was just
Um,
saying that in this regard, like that's one of the things I think is key. Like people think that like shooting as a genre is, you know, like why is it running? Why has it been running for so long? Why is it like an evergreen genre? And the reason is that like it provides a way for different skill levels and different kind of people and different backgrounds and different whatever aspects of them to find a common ground quite easily. It's very easy to teach somebody how to play a shooting game. It's like, here's the screen, like on the left side just move, and it's very easy, like very intuitive. On the right side, Now people have 4 fingers and 6 fingers, so I won't get into that. But usually, for a normal beginner, on the right side is how you shoot, and that's it. And that's very easy compared to some of the other genres out there, right? So getting into it is quite easy and mastering it is quite hard, and that makes a lot of people kind of pile into from all backgrounds, from all cultural, socio-economical, as well as
Mm.
gender and all of that mixed in to try it out at least. And then it builds a community. Oh, did you see that person take that shot? Because you are aware of the skill that it requires. So that's why I see this genre staying for a for as long as gaming exists in a way, because new innovations will keep coming up, but the base genre is just so easy
Mm.
and so action packed and so great that it
Mm.
will stay.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. I play shooters on console, so I'm terrible on mobile, and that's another thing where I think probably there will be better players starting from
Yeah,
mobile shooting. Like you have trained for, and I just can't play it. Like I'm more like a console. I'm not even PC. So I'm looking forward to see as well like the esports community, and it gives also a different representation indeed of who are the shooter players. And let's also begin the journey of how you started Mayhem Studio. As I believe it started with you, I was curious more to hear about you have a team of co-founders, how you started it, and as you were clear that you wanted to get into the genre of mobile shooter, how did you get into building your first game, your team, who funded you, if you could give more context about it as well.
sure. So we basically have a leadership team here. Uh, I'm the founder, but there are quite a lot of folks in the senior leadership team with us. We are a Series A company right now. $20 million is what we raised last from Peak 15, erstwhile Sequoia, Truecaller, Steadview Capital, Moorcap, Basecap. Quite a lot of great investors on board. Thankful for that. And the idea here is that we believe that this is going to happen. Like India is going to be one of the big destinations for people to build games for, and we believe that being in the market and building for the market gives us a unique insight into it. And this is not just belief from just a intuitive belief, but also looking at trends in Japan, how industry started there, or Korea, or even China for that matter. US is a bit different from that because everybody, like you also mentioned, built for US, so it's a bit different. But specifically, countries which started a little bit later on the gaming journey have had a very similar pattern. So we are at that juncture where India is going to explode in further. Like last year itself, I would say $2 billion in revenue in games, and this is going to go to like 7 or 8 billion in the next 3 4 years, which is incredible growth. So about the company, so we started in 2022 officially. Before that, we were kind of a strategic unit within a larger company called MPL in India. And how it started is that we were always looking, like I was obviously involved with PUBG and really grateful and proud of what we did there, and also thankful for the team there who kind of trusted me with that journey. But there came a point where the game kind of got banned, and we were thinking, like I was personally thinking what to do. And this was always something, as a kid you have a dream of. I mean, a lot of the people who will listen to this, especially from India, will relate to this. Like, there's a dream of, well, what if it is made for the country? Like, and what if we can show this heritage, this culture, these stories to other people, not just here? And that kind of thought is how most of our leadership and even some of our junior members are driven, because that's the core of it. It's like we have so much to show as a country which has not been exposed. Like India never shows up on the gaming radar in terms of content. But if you look at the stories that we generate, like be it Bollywood, TV series, music, there's a lot to offer clearly that the country
Mm-hmm.
has. So why not offer it in the most interactive format we believe is the most engaging format of entertainment. Um, from there on, we got the great investors on board. We started working on earlier a prototype of the game. We had quite a few themes to choose from, and this one, Underworld Gang Wars, it's kind of an homage to Bollywood. Yeah. So like there are quite a few popular movies, TV series, favorites of all of us, which we really like, and we realize that this theme and is timeless. Like even if you look at global, like be it Narcos or Peaky Blinders, there are similar
Yeah.
parallels in India, which people watch for years or decades rather, right? So there's something there. There's something story wise that brings out great characters out of this. So that's what we picked. And then the map, for example, in a battle royale game, the map is very important because it's almost like how you play depends on how the map is with the level and with the world and visuals, and also where the loot is placed, vehicles are placed. So it's a very key factor. So we did an extensive research of trying to figure out how to build this. Again, paying here, we wanted to pay homage to India in general. So there's not one city you can say our map is based on. In fact, even if we make a structure, you won't be able to say this is the place that this structure is found in India. It's a mishmash. It's almost like a like our name a mayhem of what happens in an artistic standpoint in the country. We picked the best from everywhere and kind of made Dhantara. So yeah, so that's we are now almost 100 like you rightly said, but we are always on the lookout of great talent. This is a journey which is a long one, and we believe to achieve the standards that we have set for ourselves, we need a really good talent to come and build this with us. This will be an exciting journey because the growth opportunity is immense, but the challenges are also very unique because it's almost like we are also building the industry and the talent. We are building the airplane
Mm.
while flying in some ways. So we just have the seat below us and a few passenger seats next to us and the engine in the air. So that's kind of the experience that we have, which is why joining now will be a fantastic opportunity for anyone who wants to explore and see like exponential growth out of a country that's about to kind of become a global player, so to say.
Yeah, and I will come back to that in a few minutes about the team, the growth, talents, and challenges that we discussed as well when we've met. Do you know, I'm again not, I wouldn't call myself a mobile shooter player, but I'm very driven by mission and impact. And that's a part of the story that really resonated with me, talking to you and also a few other studios about really that aspiration and ambition to tell the stories that haven't been told, right? Because I'm a media consumer and I look at Netflix, which is a good signal as well of consumer trends. It's so analytically driven that what you presented is probably a result of demand. And now I see actually more also Indian content. Actually, I don't know even you that I was going to India, but I have other friends telling me you must watch this. One big hit. I don't know if you watch it. Is I don't even know how to say it. Is RRR. But I was like, my mind was blown away when I watched the movie. It's like, what is this? And I got so much into it, and it was a new rabbit hole for me. And I think as well, seeing trends, with Korean dramas and the appetite we have as a more globalized, connected world is what can I feel as a novel experience. And from just my little time in India, I wanted to discover more. I wanted to find more about cultures and stories, and I think it's amazing that many studios have that ambition to bring the stories of the world culturally. It's also an homage as well back to your core culture, and you have a very rich culture also from the religion, mythology. I like so many nuances to appreciate. So for that part, I just wanted to say as well that I can see the appeal, the drive for it, and I hope as well the audience listening that at least if they're not familiar with it, they get a little curious to understand more about it. Um, and so, just some questions, some follow-up questions on about Underworld Gang
Gang Wars.
Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, where are you with the game right now? I was looking also at your public data, and it seems you have 6 million people who pre-registered. So, where is that audience? Is it local, global? You said you build first for India and then scale later. So, could you share more a bit about the game and when we can expect to see more?
Sure. So I can share something. Some things are going to kind of come in time. So the game is right now in a closed alpha testing. What that means is people come to our office every 4 to 6 weeks. This is a group of players
Mm.
who come and play the game, give us score, game feedback, which we can collect, improve. These are like basics. Like we believe where the magic is in the details, like the feel of the gun and the feel of the movement and the feel of the animation. It's hard to get right. And that's what we are testing with these folks because they've essentially played so many games and they play and love them so much that they're able to exactly pinpoint and help us with that. In terms of where the game's demand is coming from, so we have crossed, I think, 6.5 million pre-registrations now, and
Wow. Mhm.
the demand is mainly coming from like stuff that we are putting out. Like we posted a trailer sometime last year. We have over 20 million views on that trailer itself. We've been putting out content on various social media channels. We've been showcasing snippets of gameplay, and we've been also like players really resonate with the theme, the characters, the map, the story. It's almost like they really wanted to see this. And there's a lot of feedback on when are you going to launch and why is it not coming sooner? And I just want to so that's the part that where I'm not saying much right now because things like this take time.
Mm.
We also appreciate the love that we are getting, and we want to handle that love with care. We don't want to release something that is not up to the mark for our players because we understand what we being players ourselves, we know what the quality that players are expecting. So we are cooking, we are slow cooking, we are making sure it's cooked well, and then once it's there, like we'll be announcing next set of steps pretty soon on how we are going to go public from here on.
Yeah, great. And why I was mentioning the data is already a very good signal. The registration, the interest that you have for a game that is not, I would say, close to public or released yet. So it's a good validation of the demand, and also to have players that you can talk to on a weekly basis. I think that's a great practice. As a reminder for listeners, like, I believe strongly in building your product with your audience, right? And here, if you manage to build a system where you have actually representative of your audience coming and you iterate the product, I believe that you create something like really well fitted for your audience with that process. So that's a great practice as well.
Yeah, it's part of our culture. Like first thing, the first cultural value is player first. So we and it's not even something that we had to cook up or write on the walls or something like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just we're all so keen players. We have the opposite problem of, guys, this is enough feedback for now. We can't take anything more for the next set of sprints. That's enough for us. Like we'll come back to you again. So our internal team is itself quite driven and think player like in that sense, as well as we validate that feedback and also get external fresh perspective from real players out there so that we are on the right track.
Mm. And let's get into a bit more like the process of development here, where, as you mentioned, building the plane as you are putting the passengers. I really like that metaphor. It's very visual and very so straightforward. That's a question I've asked actually most of you I've met there, and not as to challenge, but more as a reflection point, because out there, there are already globally very competitive mobile shooters, right? What are the benefits of building for you a mobile shooter in India for the Indian market, but also the challenges? And you've touched on some of them, but I would like to spend some time on that question, and maybe for the listeners, how, if they want to collaborate in the future, help you deliver that mission of bringing, more games like this to the market, Indian market, and globally eventually.
Sure. So quite, I mean, the opportunity size is large, first of all. Like I was talking about the market growing
Mm-hmm.
exponentially. If we are able to, or when we are able to get to this stage of we are able to meet our player expectations, which will happen very soon, the demand is just unfathomable. Like there is 800 million devices, like I mentioned, and what happens year on year is this number grows
Mm.
dramatically. People's phones increase, people's RAM increase, appetite increase, paying propensity increase. So we are going to see a tremendous demand. That's the biggest opportunity. The second one also is it building shooters is tough in itself. So even globally, on mobile, very few companies are actually able to build shooters. So in a way, that's also an opportunity. It can be thought of as a challenge, but we like to think of it as a moat, as an opportunity. Like it's not easy to build a mobile shooter. You really have to invest a lot of time in getting it right. So that is also a great opportunity for us, because once we have done that, once you have the engine built, Underworld Gang Wars 2, 3, some other variants. There are so many stories and characters to present, and so many various innovations which are unique to how we are as a country and how our kind of people think, that bringing it out in a game can introduce a lot of innovation in the game format, in the art style, in the characters. In it will feel like a completely different game. Um,
Hmm.
and just as an example of like when you learn a new language, or when you look at a new style of art, or when you hear a different kind of genre of song, there is something else that opens up in your brain, right? And sometimes you may be like you're in Berlin, but you may be a big K-pop fan. Similarly, we are hoping that what we create is unique in a sense that it brings out something that's so different. And difference, we believe, is in the details. It's not like, just giving an example, instead of shooting in battle royale games, we'll introduce some levitating as a new mechanic. No, it's about the nuances of difference of notes, or you know in musical instruments have different kinds of sounds. Similarly, gaming has a different feel of each shooting game feels different, and that's what we are trying to build, and that's hard to explain till you play it. So in terms of challenges, while the opportunity set is big, the challenges are on really finding great talent who's built and done this before, because this is kind of the first generation of studios. Us being kind of the leaders here in that sense are also, like I mentioned, creating the market. So we know there's a lot of potential. There are great talented people in the country, but people who've been there and done this before are not too many, and that's where the challenge is. So it can be looked at as an opportunity on from external perspective of, well, if the country is going to grow so big, and kind of the first generation of startups are rising now, if somebody makes it here in time, they can be like the wizard of Indian gaming, in art, in technical art, in engineering, the core disciplines of how you build hardcore games. I would say that's where the challenge and the opportunity is at the same time. Where India is great is in product, in design, in art also, I would say, because of a lot of outsourcing work we've done. But where we need more support is on the getting the technical art aspect of it, the engineering aspect of it, with respect to like making a multiplayer on bad network with a low sort of device work pretty well, which globally also is a tough challenge that I think maybe China is the only country I think has solved really, really well. So that's kind of the challenge side of it. It's a very fairly technical and nuanced challenge, but that will bring about a new set of talent in the country from either abroad or from our own like kind of generation of colleges and schools, and people who are interested in gaming taking up courses and learning and then trying out building games themselves.
I think the only way to make sense of the nuances you talk about in the differences of the play feel is to play the game. But I do know what you mean, because you can say, oh, a shooter is a shooter, but there are so micro details, tunings that make the whole experience quite different. Again, like there are some kind of shooters I like. I don't know exactly why, but I just do like them. But I wouldn't call myself a shooter player, which is strange. But it's about the experience and the feel, right? And on the other side, something we talked about, and where I hope among the listeners, whether they are working full time or consultants, experts wanting to, expand their horizon, here is there's an opportunity to participate in making that happen, accelerate, because it's not a question of if, but when and how, and a great opportunity also to level up a generation of engineers, talents in India who maybe didn't have the opportunity to learn from all the big companies on those games, those big games, but having the ambition to really serve in India. So I hope as well that resonates with some of you as you hear today, Ojas, and to get in touch because the need is there, the need on the player side, but the need also on development side, and accelerate just for you execution of the game, but also impact on, I would say, the ecosystem of development, game development in India. Mm.
Yeah, completely agree. And just this is going to happen like it's happened in some other industries in here. Like giving an example of like in general, like let's say food tech in India is
Mm.
supremely good. Like really talented folks, and the products that are made here are top notch, like really good. Um, Similarly, like tech as an example, India is pretty solid in terms of its fintech companies, tech, and also talent and the products that we have created. So it's just waiting to happen on gaming, especially in this hardcore gaming genre. Casual and midcore have already seen that with a lot of studios successfully making it in India. This is the most, I would say, technically oriented gaming space, which is now waiting for that opportunity and that flip, which is happening in the next, I would say, next few years itself. It's going to happen.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's the opportunity. It's a exponential acceleration of gaming talent, products, and creating something which can be written down in history to some extent because it's going to be the top three market in gaming in the world in terms of revenue. So creating something that's very popular here will eventually make it very popular in other geographies as well, like Middle East, like Southeast
Mm.
Asia,
Yes.
Africa, South America. Like there's a lot of demand in other than these countries also for content which is different and unique.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's the opportunity, I would say, for international listeners and people who want to come and experience a very different culture and very different country, a country which is growing as well, are also
Mm.
welcome to come and be here because it's exponential. It's like even in my lifetime, the changes I've seen in the country are exponential. And
Mm.
I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be even more so with the way that things are progressing. It's going to be pretty explosive growth for anyone who wants to make that shift.
Yeah. And you did a good promotion on India. I can testify about it. Just coming back from India, it's great. It's very rich and it's also very welcoming. I think all the things you've shared and even the connection I've made there, I can just double down on that. And it's a very exciting opportunities also again to be part of it and writing that page of history in gaming to create the next hit games, coming from India for India and global. I do truly believe as well in the demand on a global level, especially to play different experiences of shooters and stories told, right? Because they've been also very uh, designed in a way with a certain lens and perspective, not getting into detail of politics, but that's what it is in the end, and maybe it deserves to see other stories and perspectives from other parts of the world. And I wanted to mention one important fact that also gives quite how serious the business is growing in India is you got 20 million of funding, which is big, I can tell you. I know many companies who are just happy to have their 1 or 2 million, and there's no guarantee these days to even have more. So it's serious money, and it signals also serious capital invested to believing in the future of gaming in India. And back to also the purchasing power, it means it actually translates in even more in the capability, because building a mobile shooter, it's a high investment in terms of cost, energy, and you are taking a big challenge, but hopefully for a big outcome. And for the last part, I wanted to spend just our last 5 to 10 minutes more on retrospective. I know it's not been long, you like 2022, but you as a CEO and founder, and we talked a little bit about it when we've met. I always like to reflect more on the leadership, reflection and points. What are the key things that comes to mind for you? Like almost 2 years in the company, first time, I guess, founder, CEO. the things you have done and you thought they were right. Looking back, okay, you've learned something. So what are the things that comes on top of your mind as learnings?
The first big learning was when we started, we were like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. Like, honestly, we started with that. In a way, that's good. Like, you require that kind of, I would say, stupidity to take on something this massive, and this people call it courageous, they call it like great, enormous opportunity and challenge and all that. We were honestly quite stupid. We thought it's very easy, so we'll do it. That is a big learning. We don't think of it as easy now, but we do think of it as we know better how to do certain things and we are still learning some other things. Like, so
Mm,
there's a bit nuanced approach to it. The second was like the talent shortage was not as apparent then. Like in terms of if you see tech in general, India has probably the best engineers, like even globally. Like a lot of big hiring centers of some of the global MNCs are here, and they hire in like huge numbers, not just in terms of like pay packages, but also in terms of the number of engineers and talent that they hire in the country. So we thought that okay, it's going to be quite easy, but then we realized that the nuance of how you build a game like this is almost different from any other kind of tech. Like it's not as easy as translating someone who's really good at, let's say, React Native or
mm,
just native Android to just transition over and make something in Unreal Engine or Unity. It's not as easy. So that's another one. So we've now found some over time, rather found some great folks there as well. Though that skill gap and that talent gap still exists. The If we put together the kind of people we need for the next 5 years, there's no way that we will be able to find them unless we build that capability in the country. So that's kind of been our second biggest learning. So we do get folks, experts on board who come and help the team learn and skill and develop, and that kind of is also a focus area and learning for us over time. Um, the third one, I would say, as a person, like also for me, learning is, I would just encapsulate it in patience. Like it's a marathon. Unlike like I've worked on casual and midcore before as well, and it's a very different. Like not just in building, but also you're looking at D1 conversion, right? D1 conversion. You're looking at your early funnels and what your starter pack did, and things like that. Here it's completely different ball game compared to that. Building
mm,
and product wise, people need to like your game first, and then they will pay.
mm,
Whereas in other genres, people need to first get into the game and find something that either is like a semblance of a paywall or is, something that is incentivizing them to open their wallet up. So it's a very different use
mm,
case. So patience in both aspects on how you build shooter game and also how the player will perceive require thinking in a more marathon kind of way. What does it take for a player to play this game for 10,000 hours, for 5,000 hours, for 4 hours every day? Like
mm,
that is kind of the question, rather than how do we quickly go out there and get like UA done and get people in and convert them. And so that's something I've learned also personally over time. And the last one would be more around just honestly the fortunate people we have supporting us. When I say that, I'm including players who are patiently waiting, still pre-registering every month, looking at the content, giving us feedback, helping us improve. Second set is our stakeholders and investors, like the best investors out there, helping us, uh, introducing us to folks, helping us on this journey. And stakeholder wise also, a lot of our partners and people we work with, for a lot of them also, this is the first time they're seeing something as big being made in the country. They're also helping us. And the last is our people, like the people who are on this journey. I would say we are a very special, unique kind of set of folks who are quite chaotic and mayhem in general, but we have our own unique footprint on trying to do this. But mostly, I would say most of the folks I can say are driven by that one piece of thing, like, well, this needs to happen. Like, I have also thought about this and I have also dreamt about this, so this needs to happen. And it's a very hard approach in that sense. So yeah, I mean, that's maybe that should be the first one, but I always keep players first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems that you have thought about it, and something I appreciated as well, as still first time founder and CEO, but quite a lot of thoughts, reflection, and learning. And that's, I think, also a key trait of in this journey. You're solving a challenge that hasn't been solved for this particular market and with a particular context. So the mindset of humbleness and keep learning, I appreciate a lot. And you've been, you've embodied it, and as well, like just by the learnings on top of your head that you have incorporated. So thanks a lot for that. And my very last question to finish on an aspirational thought: what do you look forward to the end of the year? That's something that you can share, of course.
So what I look forward to is, uh, we are planning to do a community playtest before the end of the year, which is like kind of calling in some of our well-wishers and players
Mm.
and stakeholders into our office. So I wish for that to be fantastic and for people to really have fun. And other than that, like in general, I would say for the next year to be the year of gaming for India. Like that's my wish. Yeah.
And I think there will be much more attention from next year. There was something really exceptional that happened at IGDC this year, where it was a momentum, where a lot of visibility and PR and social media to make it big. So I expect more will happen next year, and I also make sure to spread the word. So
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much. Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, like I said, it's coming from, there are quite a few stories we want to tell. There's a lot of that kind of thought process. And there's also a lot of talent that wants to express its creativity. Like, I think India has a lot of talent, like we discussed before, but the way to creatively express your, innate feelings or emotions or stories or characters, there are very few outlets, especially in the tech world, if you think about
Mm.
it. So gaming offers a very fantastic way to do that. So I feel like that's also something that will play a role.
Well, let's follow that. And for the listeners, follow Mayhem, the social media, stay in touch. And if you live in India, because I'm sure I have listeners as well from India now, well, stay around to check what are the future playtests and get in touch with the community. Thanks a lot, Ojas, for your time today and sharing, giving more visibility on what you're doing. It sounds super exciting, and I really look forward to seeing, your development next year and see you maybe sometime in Europe, or I probably come back to India sooner than later if, yeah, some conversation goes forward as well on my end.
That's awesome. Yeah, look forward to it. And thanks a lot for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And also, it's a pleasure to interact with people, hopefully outside, who are maybe getting to know about us for the first time. And wishing you the best as well. I hope that you're also as fascinated by this journey and growth, and you also find opportunities to work with us and in general with the community in India.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm sure I will. Thank you, Ojas. Take care.